Welcome back to the EJ Ward FuelView training series. In this video, we're going to be going over the navigation of the FuelView website. So I've went ahead and gone to the FuelView website and I've logged in. This is the landing page that we come to, which is our at a glance page. This is a type of page that you'll see, and you'll see this at a couple different spots inside of our system, and it's just an informational page. This just has information about our system, and we'll be going over this in depth in a later video. The next thing we're going to go over is how to navigate through the pages. On the left-hand side, we have a cabinet that has all the different folders and types of pages that we can go to. This is going to be underneath the customer's name, which right now I have mine set to Ward Training. You can click on any of these folders, and that will expand to all the pages that are inside of that folder. For instance, if I click on Asset Management, I can go to the department screen, employees, vehicles, administrative cards, site cards, templates, the vehicle terminal authorizations, the vehicle types, and then I also have two different types of pages at the bottom, which we call assigning pages, for assigning the vehicle types, and then an import from spreadsheets. So to go to any of these pages, we simply just click on that page. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the vehicles page first. Once the vehicle page comes up, you're going to be shown what we call a grid view. This is basically like an Excel spreadsheet or just any type of spreadsheet. On top, you're going to have action buttons. All of these do different things, and each page might have a couple of different action buttons, but quite a few of them are on almost every page that we have. The first one is an Add Record button. If you have the permissions to add a record, that Add Record button will show up first. We have a Query button, a Columns button, a Pagings button, an Export button, and a Create Template button. Now the Create Template button is one of those buttons that only shows up on a few screens. It's not going to be on every one of them. So the Query button is the first one that shows up on almost every page. When we click on that, it's going to show us a dialog box of all of the filtered information that we have behind in this grid. So the first thing that we have is a status, and that's going to be on almost every page that we have. And that status is going to be inactive, active, or all. The reason why we have a status of active and inactive, because in the FuelView system, we don't actually delete things. We need to have these records there for historical purposes, so we make them inactive instead of deleting them. So if I wanted to see any of the vehicles that were deactivated, I can just simply click on inactive, and then I can refresh down at the bottom right-hand side, and it's going to show me only the deactivated vehicles that I've had in the system. For right now, it's only 2. Some systems might have more or less. If we click on Query again, we can keep going through this and filter down as much as we want. Now, each section is going to be different for every page. For instance, on the employees, you're not going to have a vehicle number. So this is a searching function that we have inside of the vehicle number, and we can drop this down and do contains, starts with, ends with, or equals, and then we can search for it. So we can search for a vehicle that, let's say we want a vehicle that has test in the name. So we can just start typing test, and then we can hit refresh again, and that refreshes the data, and now only the test 123 vehicle shows up. You'll also notice at the top right-hand side that query shows inactive, vehicle number contains test. This is just showing you the type of data that's being shown there, so you know that something is being filtered out. If we click on Query again, let's say you don't want anything filtered anymore, you can go ahead and click on the Clear button on the bottom left-hand side. And once we do that, it's going to go back to normal, which normal means you're just showing your active records. Now, once we hit the Clear, it's showing active, it clears out everything else, and then we just hit Refresh, and now we're back to the original data that we had before. The other type of box that we have in the query windows are checkboxes. So if we have vehicle types, we can click on multiple vehicle types, and then we can do a select all, or we can do an unselect all from these. We also have departments, and all the different screens will have different boxes like this. And we just click on what we want to show. We click on refresh, and it shows us what's matched up on what we're putting in the query window. You'll also see on the query window, it's showing exactly what's being queried, just like it was before. So we're going to go ahead and go back to normal with this, clear it out. Once we hit refresh again, it's showing us everything. We're only querying active vehicles on this page, or active records, or we're done with the query button. The next button is columns. If I'm a user, I'm not necessarily going to use all of this information that's up there, or I might want more information that's up there. So that's what our columns button is for. If we click the columns button, it's going to give us a drop down to where we can choose columns, we can show all columns, we can clear columns, or reset columns. Reset columns is going to give me the default view, which is what I have here, and just the amount of columns there are and how they're spread out. If I do a choose columns, which is typically what I go for, it's going to give us a field chooser that gives us all the available columns for this page. Now from here, we can click and drag these columns either into the field chooser to take them off the screen, or we can drag them from the field chooser and put them onto the screen. So for instance, for me, I don't need to know the agency vehicle code. So I'm going to click on the agency vehicle code and hold it down, and then drag it all the way over to the field chooser to where you see the black X underneath the column that I'm clicking and dragging. And then you just drop it into the field chooser and it goes away. So I don't need to know our vehicle type description either, so I can go ahead and take that one away. But let's say I wanted to know the fuel type of the vehicle. So we can come down and look at our fuel number 1 or fuel number 2. So we're just going to go ahead and click on this fuel 1 and drag it out until you see the 2 white arrows that are showing you where it's going to be dropped at. And I'm going to drop it right after the year. So now it's added the fuel type for mine. The nice thing about this is it's going to stay the same per user. So as a user, you can change every page to exactly what you want to see in the way that you want to see it, and it's going to keep like that until you change it later on. Once we're done, we go ahead and close the field chooser. And if you ever wanted to reset it, we can just drop it down and click on Reset Columns, and it's going to go back to the original view that we had. The paging button simply changes how many rows you can see per page. We default this at 10 rows per page, so that's going to be the use default paging, but we can go all the way up to 1,000 rows per page. Just know that the more rows that you're showing per page, it might take a little bit more time to put everything on that screen because you're showing more of that record. So here I can see I have 1,000 per page. I only have 38 items in the system, so it's just going to show me 38. And as you can see at the bottom here, it's showing me how many pages there are, and it shows me in parentheses how many items there are total, and that's total throughout the whole screen. It's not just this screen that you're seeing and just this page. It's going to be showing you for the entire system itself. You'll also be able to go to previous pages and next pages by clicking on that, or we'll have multiple pages in between and you'll be able to click on the page that you want to go to. We're going to go ahead and use the default paging here. The next one that we have is an export button. The export button is taking this data and exporting it to a PDF, a comma-separated value file, a Microsoft Excel file, and then we also have the Microsoft XML file or a rich text format. So once we export this as a PDF, it's going to pop open in a new box and ask us to save the file. So I already have one file here. We're just going to go ahead and save this one as a new name, and you want to change the name to make it meaningful to you. And we'll save it. And then I can go ahead and open up that PDF, and it's going to show me my vehicle screen and all the information that's in there in a PDF format. For all of our grid screens, these are going to be the file formats that you can export to. And if you want to change up the data, I recommend doing a Microsoft Excel format or even a comma-separated value or the rich text format. PDF is basically if you want to take that format and leave it static to where nobody can change it. The last button that we have is a Create Template, and we're going to be going over that in a later video. The other thing that we can do with a grid view is we can filter out data just through the grid view itself and not have to do it through query. So one thing that we can do is we can click on the vehicle number or any of these columns, and it's going to sort by that column. You click on it again, it's going to sort in the opposite direction. If I click on this vehicle, it's going to show an arrow showing which way it's actually sorting. If I click on it again, it's going to sort the opposite direction. And then I can just keep it there and sort it to whatever I want. The next thing that we have in this column is we have a blue arrow that is a drop-down arrow. And if we click on that, it's going to give us all of the unique data that is inside of the system. So for instance, a vehicle number is always going to be unique, so it's just going to show us every vehicle number. But if we go to make here, and I click on this, it's going to have all the different makes that I have, and I can click on Chevy, for instance. I see all the Chevy vehicles that I have inside of the system. So it's putting it here in this text box below. If I click on it again, I can look at all non-blanks, I can look at the blanks, or I can look at everything, which is by default. So I'm going to go ahead and click on all. The next thing that we can do is down below, which is in the text box, and we can start typing in, and it will search throughout the entire system for something that matches that. So we're going to go ahead and put in test here, and after you stop typing, it'll automatically start searching, or you can just hit enter to start it searching a little faster, and it's going to give us everything that matches what's in that box. If we click on the little funnel right next to the box, it's going to give us modifiers that we can put to that. So we can have begins with, we can have contains, doesn't contain, ends with, equals, doesn't equal, or like. Using the percent sign or the underscores are wildcards. So the percent is going to substitute 0 or more characters, and the underscore is going to substitute a single character. Once I have something filtered out here, even if the column is no longer available and it's still filtered out, you're going to see this clear button here on the top left-hand side of the grid, and you're going to see it on the bottom right-hand side of the grid as well. On the bottom left-hand side of the grid, you're going to see what's being filtered out. So we have begins with the vehicle number and equal to test. So if anything begins with test inside of the vehicles, it's filtering that out. There's a checkbox next to it where we can uncheck that, and it's going to unfilter everything. And let's say we want to filter it back again, we can click on that checkbox and it'll filter everything back like the way we had it before. So if I just want to clear it out, if you know what it is that's being filtered in the column is there, you can just backspace through it and delete it, or you can hit clear, and that will clear everything that's being filtered. So if you have multiple boxes that are being filtered, then it's going to clear out all of that. The other thing that we can do with this is, just like the columns where we're adding columns and taking columns away, you can click and drag and change the order these columns are in. So for instance, let's say I want the license plate towards the end. I can click on the license plate and hold it and then drag it to where I want it to sit. And then let's say I want it right before the card status. I'll see the two white arrows that are right in between card status and agency vehicle code. And I drop it down there and it puts my license plate there now. Besides the grid view, this is really the main type of view that we have in our system. We have a couple of other pages that are very unique to that page itself, and we'll be going over those in later videos when we go over that section. As far as navigating, if you want to get back to the original page that you were at, you can simply click on the asset management again to close it up, and then you can click on status, and then we have at a glance at the top of status, and that's going to be your landing page, so you can go back to your landing page whenever you want. This concludes the video on navigating through FieldView and how to use our grids. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.